And so next up, we have Dan Gasper, who is the co-founder of Distilled Ventures. He was a COO of Distilled until January of this year, and now he coaches some of the industry's best independent craft and spirits brands. So he is going to be talking here. Actually, here he is. Hello. And so he is going to be talking to us with this esteemed panel about creating your drinks brand. And first, we have Maximilian Wagner right here. Yes, you can clap if you want to,
Whoa.
and I want you to. Thank you. And Mr. Andrew Beebe. Thank you. Mr. Spencer Forhart.
Big round of applause.
Yes. And Mr. Herr Jan Peter Wulf. So, yeah. All right, so please, everybody come in, take your seats, and give them your utmost attention, please. Take it away, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Pardon me.
Good afternoon, everybody. How are we all doing out there? All right. Yeah, come on. Yeah, there's a lot of clapping. Day 3. How much luggage is under the eyes today? Not enough. Not enough. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for a great introduction, Frankie. And thank you for attending this first series of BCB Drinks Business Talks. I hope you were here to hear the brilliant David Gluckman speak earlier. I don't know how many of you caught that. That was pretty cool, wasn't it? Who knew about Guinness whiskey? And I hope you enjoy our talk today. Next up, we've also got Simon Ford and a gentleman called Charles Rolls from a drinks brand you might know called Fever Tree. So it's an all-star cast. This talk, however, is about growing your drinks brand in today's global drinks market. Whether you're just starting a brand or whether you are kind of 5 years in the trenches and you wear the baggage well, this talk's for you today. So buckle up, and here we go. First, for those who don't know me, I should introduce myself, Dan Gasper. I've been working in the drinks industry for almost 20 years now. In the past 10 years, I've spent coaching and supporting independent, founder-led drinks companies. 5 years ago, I co-founded the world's first drinks accelerator called Distilled Ventures, backed by a small company called Diageo. And I'm now independent man of booze, and I coach some of the world's brightest independent drinks entrepreneurs. For my sin, in the past 10 years, I've spoken to over 2,000 drinks entrepreneurs, and I've supported over 100. So I think I've earned my stripes in the independent booze space. So that's that. As an independent drinks entrepreneur, there are actually very few places you can go to get great information about how to be smart in today's market. You can read books about what happened 10 years ago. You can read books about what happened 20 years ago. But that's not happening today. So today I've gathered to my left a dream panel of some of the brightest minds in the modern booze world. They are all as passionate about the business of booze as I am. But they've all spent significant time supporting and advising and building drinks businesses, which is why they're on the panel today. So I'd like them to introduce themselves. Why don't you tell us a little about who you are, your business, and why you love what you do.
Hello, my name's Andrew Beebe. I work for Arlington Capital Advisors, which is one of the leading craft beverage-focused investment banks. I actually started off as Diageo in North America, ran strategy and M&A there, worked on their ventures group, which is where I met Dan, and really wanted to stay in the industry. The reason I got in was just because it's incredible. Everyone that's in it, whether it's been right at the beginning or been there for decades, everyone has a passion about it. So I'm just excited to be here and see everyone in terms of just even after 3 days, tons of passion for overall the drinks industry.
Hi, I'm Max Wagner. I'm one of the 2 founders of Belzazar Vermouth, German vermouth brand, which we actually launched in 2014, and we're very lucky and excited to be integrated into the Diageo portfolio spring of this year. Drinks industry for me is one of the most awesome places because so many things happen, develop, and change. Yet on the other side, you get a great sustainability of things. So when something good is there, it spreads around the world. It's something that unites all of us because at the end of the day, we are only humans. We're eating and we are drinking, and it's a great passion to go to better drinking.
Hi, I'm Spencer Forhart. I'm a co-founder of the Proof Collective. We're based in Singapore, but we have activities across Asia Pacific. We got our start with a little bar called 28 Hong Kong Street. It was a pure passion project. That passion has unfolded into a distribution company that is present in Singapore, Hong Kong, China, Australia. We got our start out of passion, and I continue here today out of passion. I love spirits. I love the history. I love the production. I love the culture. I love the people. I love the places. And I'm lucky that I get to unfold my passion in a dynamic business setting.
I'm Jan, I'm from Berlin, and I've been writing about booze and gastronomy for the last 20 years or so. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, gents. Each of these brilliant beasts of booze to my left will be talking about one of these 5 topics today. So first up is going to be money, 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 and it's all about good investors and what they look like and a kind of really good overview of the different types of investment available to startup drinks companies. Next up is going to be love your local, why being the king at home is so important. Then we're going to have what's your velocity, how to write real sales forecasts and why it matters. Spoiler alert, that could be the driest section of today's talk. It's mine. Your new wife, how to manage your distributor and get the best outcomes. And number 5, modern marketing, how to make marketing in this world, in this modern world of drinks. I've chosen these 5 because I think these are some of the really big things that you do need to get right when you're growing a drinks brand in today's market. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Mr. Andrew Beebe, all about money, money, money.
Thank you, Dan. So I wanted to talk about sort of investors and as you look at your future. And I guess just for the audience, who here is looking for money shortly? Who here is looking for an investor? Now, luckily, they're the same thing, or in most of the cases they are. But there is a distinction that's there, right? Investors provide much more than money. And as you go out to raise, really want to figure out what else they can bring to the table, right? You look at the network that they provide, right? They have access to both other investors, access to other relationships they have either within the drinks industry or beyond to really help you think about your business and grow it. They also have expertise, right? They've run businesses, they're currently doing it, or they have experience in the past. They also have an objective view. You have the vision and you're thinking about your business, driving it forward, and really have the creative energy that sits behind it. But they be able to provide an objective view to really help you think about those problems that you're running through, step back, and really make sure that you're thinking about your business both for today and the longer term. They also have expectations depending on the type of investor. They're either looking for a return, they're looking for specific growth, so understanding what they're looking for is critical as you go out and find your investor base. They can also be a friend and a partner, right? This is a roller coaster in terms of what happens as you start your business, as you continue to grow it, as you build a team. They're there for support, not only for you, for your team, but for your business and your family. And then also, depending if it's strategic access or strategic partners that you find, they can actually give you access through their distribution network, through their supply chain, and a myriad of other relationships that they have throughout the industry. If you look at it, selecting an investor is one of the most important things that you can do as you think about your business. You're developing that long-term relationship. What this is supposed to do, and every path and every journey for a company is different. What we wanted to do here is really simplify how you can think about your growth, how you can think about your different investor bases. So first of all, no matter where you are in the process, no matter who the investor is, they're going to be looking at you, they're going to be looking at your team, and they're going to be looking at your product. But there's different things they'll look at different stages. In the beginning stages, right, there isn't revenue, it might just be starting, you might have very little commercial performance. People are looking at you and what you've created and are investing behind that. Secondly, you move over to sort of you're starting to grow in your own market. You're starting to get traction both commercially, you're looking at growing beyond your home base, you're developing your team, and then you're moving into positive profitability, or potentially you're just investing that into future growth. At each one of these stages, you have your different investors, and they're looking at you differently. You have individual investors, which we'll talk about a little bit more, institutional investors, as well as strategics. You also have sort of another option when you look at debt or crowdfunding. Both are sort of unique, right, sort of on the outside when you look at your traditional core, but many different ways that you can think about investors as you go forward.
And then, not to throw you, but this chart, the chart that Andrew's just moved on from, is probably one of the concise, brilliant charts that you'll see about investment in booze. So if you haven't taken a picture, it'll be available on BCB.com.
Now, to think about it, individual investors. They can be friends, they can be family, they can be wealthy locals, and really they're about being part of the journey, really being proud of what you're doing and investing behind you. Many people start with friends, family, and credit cards to get their business off the ground. They can continue along for that ride, or you can look to move to different investor bases. So what are the benefits of this group? One, they know you. They've heard about the idea, they've heard you talk about it for years, so they already know what's happening and they're ready to jump in and support you. Because you're just getting started, there's limited diligence. There's not a lot that they're going to ask you about the details of your company. They just want to bet on you and what's going to happen. What you do need to think about is because these are small investors, because they're going to write small checks, you're going to get a much larger base than someone else coming in and writing a bigger check. So you just have to understand their needs and be able to work with them as you continue to grow and manage those relationships. Because regardless of the size of what they invest, they're going to have an opinion about you, your brand, and how to grow it appropriately. You also have institutional investors. They're seeking above market returns. These are angel investors or incubators that can get your brand up and running right from the beginning. They're venture capitalists who are looking for brands that are growing, that have established themselves in market. You're probably not profitable, but they believe in the idea, they believe in you, and they're actually seeing you grow within the market. Then you have private equity. Private equity is still looking for growth businesses. They're betting on a category, they're betting on you, but they're looking for profitability. So obviously, as you continue to grow, those are sort of considerations as you look at this investor set. The benefits for them is they're professional investors. They get a market, they're betting on a market, they understand the industry, and they can very quickly understand your business and make a decision. They have expertise within those categories, they have expertise throughout networks within consumer goods, and they'll be able to help support your growth. They also will be able to invest along your growth cycle as you continue to need capital to lay down whiskey, to lay down other products, to build further into your distillery if that's what you need, or even invest in your sales force. As you get bigger, they can give you some liquidity, so they can buy out shareholders, they can put some money in your pocket to help sort of recoup some of all that effort that you put in over a period of time. What you do need to consider is that they're professional investors. They will get into the details of your company, whether it's your commercial performance, your IP, your contracts with distributors. So be prepared for that level of information that they're going to look at. They also have performance expectations. They're looking to get above market returns. So what you say you're going to deliver, you need to make sure that you're going to continue to grow and hit that forecast that you provided when you started. And then they have exit expectations. Each one of these, as you go from angel or incubator to VC to private equity, are looking for a sale at a future date so they can get that return. And then last, you have strategic investors. That was my former company of Diageo. That's where Distill sat when sort of the early stages of investing in companies. They're looking to grow their portfolio. They're believing in you, they're looking at the brand, and they're looking far into the future of, can this brand, can this product, can this team, and this person be part of my future portfolio? There's great benefits here. You have the professional expertise and the support that comes with those big organizations. You can tap into experts that sit across globally, that sit within each different vertical, really be able to get expertise, whether it's around distilling or marketing or supply chain. There's someone within these big companies that can help you. They're also willing to pay a strategic value or value premium because of what it means for their portfolio in the future. And then also with private equity and some of the others, they can put money in your pocket and your investors as you continue to grow. Some of the considerations as you look at this are you're early committing to a single buyer. There's potential contracts that make sure that you're with these companies for the overall journey. There's also potentially prearranged valuation and exit clauses which sort of follow along with sort of that commitment. Also, if you look at further stages, and this goes for any one of your decisions, is the impact to your organization. You'll build a team, but if you go into a larger company, there might be an impact to potentially your sales force or other members just because of that integration process. But there's also benefits as you think about potentially staying with your brand even at the point of the sale for ongoing production, being the founder and being out there in market to tell your story, and just continuing to be along the ride for the journey of your brand as it continues to grow with a strategic. Overall, as you look to go out for a capital raise, there's plenty of things to think about that we talked about, but I'd say the big three things as you take away is really know what you're looking for in an investor. Right? This goes beyond money. Think about the future of your business. Think about your growth. Think about the products. Think about the people. Think about where you want to be, because telling that compelling story will make you figure out what is the right investor for you, not only just sort of the type, but also the relationships and the conversations you have with this different type of investing group. 2, have realistic expectations, but huge ambitions. Back to your financial performance, your projections, they're going to base the value of your business on delivering that, so make sure that you can going into the future. And lastly, remember you'll be raising multiple times. I don't think anyone out there has only raised once and grown their brand continually from there. So just make sure that you understand that, you think about the equity that you're going to raise, as well as the valuation of your business at that point in time. Because everyone wants to see that value of your company increase every time you go out again, and it does become painful if you're actually what they call a down round and you raise at a lower valuation. So just make sure you think about all of those different components along your growth path. Thank you. And now I'll turn it over to Max from Balthazar.
It's different sizes here getting together. Thank you very much, Andrew. Fun thing for me, as I just realized, I was a founder in 2014, lucky enough now to get a company integrated. It really works that way. That's where you go along. So what I would like to take you through is, I've been given the questions, love your local, why to be king in your home market first? And whenever I got the title first, the first thing which came to my mind, the most important message to you shall be, you're never king. Don't believe that whatever you do, that there will be an end of the story. It never stops. Once you think I'm the king in my market, I can stop now, that's it, that's my ambition. No, it will never stop. You will always have to move on. Nevertheless, the main topic, why not to try it at least, to be the king of your home market? And there's some simple reasons, arguments, and what I would like to say, why to do it and eventually how to do it. The first reason why you should start with your home market. Neighbors' fruits always look better and nicer, but you know your home market. This is where you live. This is eventually where you grew up. This is where you know which cities to pick. It's as easy as that. How many cities do actually exist? Some countries are very monopolistic. Other countries have many important cities. You know which are the most important. Within those cities, you will have the knowledge on which other neighborhoods to pick. Would it be cool to start a certain brand in Berlin-Kreuzberg, or should I go to Mitte, or should I start in the West? Would it be fitting Berlin anyway at all? And I think this is something you can take across the whole world when you know your home market. Coming down from cities to neighborhoods, your consumers. You know what your consumers are looking for. So it's the old example of probably not launching a meat product in a vegetarian environment. Doesn't make sense. But you have knowledge on your local behaviors. And that will save you a lot of money. Instead of doing market research, you'll have the first knowledge already available. Knowledge never stops. Be aware of this. You will always, and you have to, and I think we all are, always continuing to learn. But the learning in your home markets, again, is way easier. You will learn some examples, just the structure of your value chains, which margins are necessary to give. What's the appropriate pricing? And appropriate pricing is a very nice example of when you take a product into market, obviously it has to end up with a price someday. You need the information, you have to learn what pricing in your segment for your products, for your category look like. You can go into the internet and Google what the prices in America are for gin, for vermouth or whatsoever, but it will only show you something which fits your Google strategy. In your home market, you simply go into the supermarket and look at the products you like and just compare prices. You go to different cities. Again, learning is so much easier in your home market, and learning will bring you to the point of eventually becoming a market leader or a king. Also, the structure of consumers is something you will learn. You will see consumer behavior, how they change, how they develop, and it's all these processes which are way easier to access in your home market. Talking about easy something very basic at the beginning, you might be eventually already now today beyond this point, but you will spot the opportunity first. Some people start saying, I want to be an entrepreneur, I'm looking for an idea. That's one thing, one approach. It will come most likely in your home market because this is where you live, this is where you go around. Another way to come to it is you have an idea already, but this idea will be generated through all the impacts in the market you are living, and you will see when you have an idea, is there actually a market for it? Yes, most likely you will know. Once you have decided on the idea, what to do, where to take it, what you want to go, in your home market it will always be easier to test. And by easiness of testing, I literally mean go to your friends and ask them. I don't know, don't want to be too close, but you might not have too many friends in other countries. You will always have to trust people telling you something. You will always have to make friends first, which means lots of money investment as well. At home, you can easily test the market. And testing something, it sounds really profound, but it means, I mean, we're in the liquid industry, take your liquid, go into any random bar, start talking to the bartender and make him test it. It's as easy as, it sounds ridiculous how easy it is, but that's the way it is. That's how it starts. You don't need huge market research money at the beginning. You will get a feeling for it and repeat it. You can visit 6 bars a day, 5 days a week. They will give you a profound knowledge and feedback. Does your product actually look right? Does it taste right? Does it fill a gap? Eventually yes, eventually no. Once you got this understanding of testing, you have tested your product, it will be way quicker and way easier to actually grow it, to grow the brand, because you have an understanding of the structure of the market, if your product fits it, if your consumers like it, and if you can actually reach your consumers. That takes you to the next point, super important, especially the money givers will ask you for this, the business planning. What is the scale actually? What's the market size? What's the cost of competition? Cost of competition, I see there are two things. What does competitors cost? And what does it cost you to get actually besides or beyond your competitors? Can you afford to be more expensive than them? How much is the investment on your marketing budgets? Sorry. The category you want to put your product to rock in, to really become the star. All this goes into the business planning, which will be easier, again, when you have the knowledge and the understanding of the market where you're starting at the first place, eventually tomorrow, eventually you already did. Next thing, going hand in hand with the business planning, and is at some point you have to make some money. Planning things, thinking about things, designing things. You can do this for 3, 4, 5 years if you want to, but then to be honest, you will have lost your opportunity. So at some point you have to make the decision, making the move now, and then you quickly want to make sales. When you decide to go abroad, say, look, my product would perfectly fit Australia, it will take a while till your product will be registered, till you find the right distributor. You need a huge amount of luck to really have the right one. In your home market, once you've been to those 30 bars, get a great feedback, come again and just sell your bottles to them. You will have easy understanding of the structure, meeting the next people. You will literally, just time-wise, timing is the point here, you will be quicker in making sales, identifying your target outlets. You don't lose so much time on traveling. Flying to Australia is 24 hours. And at the end, time is money. You have to spend money on overnights, you have to spend money for the train, for the car, whatever. When you start in your home market, those costs highly reduced. Again, making the money boys happier also. A last point I put on a whole slide. I love it very much because, again, shows sometimes the simplicity of things. Just think logical about it. You speak the same language in your home market. Most of us think, believe, know that we speak decent English or whatsoever. We're not. I can tell for myself, I'm not a native speaker. I think my English is not too bad. Yet, when you're on the table talking to distributors, talking about nuances of your product, why somebody should buy your product and not another person's, not another regional thing, there might be differences in language you simply won't get or misunderstand or differently understand. So the risk of failure here is higher than being in your home market, speaking the same language, getting the same jokes, reading between the lines, will be easier and also put you in a way more comfortable zone to say, hey, that's where I feel at home, that's how I feel at home, so I want to make it home first. Putting all these things together, what is it about? Why and how do you want to be king home first? It's about knowledge. Knowledge never stops. Learning, that means. Continue collecting. It's way easier to get it. It's easier to communicate. It's easier to ask questions, to get feedback, to make new friends, get new people to know, bartenders, whoever, who will give you direct feedback. And putting all this together, probably one final word is the knowing things, will put you in a good position to make the planning and the growing actually being able to happen. Because you don't have to rely on any other body's opinion or ideas or eventually knowledge on the market. But it's you who know your home space, know which questions to ask, what challenges to take, and then to plan, go ahead, and actually grow. Going ahead, I'll hand over the mic back to Dan Gasper. Sorry, you might have to readjust the height, though. Thank
you. So now we're on to my section, and I don't mind saying, as I mentioned earlier, this could be one of the driest mini sections of a seminar you ever see, as I try to explain sales forecasts. However, please stay with me, as what I'm going to attempt to explain in the next 7 or 8 minutes is, I think, one of the most important elements of owning your commercial strategy. So, as you can see, if you've been coming to BCB for a few years, or you've looked at any back bar over the last decade, the business of booze is really busy. 10 years ago, getting a bottle on the back bar gave you sales. It meant that, you know, if you put it on the back bar, people would say, hey, what's that? I'm going to buy a shot of that. I'm going to have that in a drink, please. Unfortunately, things have changed. So, so unfortunately, things have changed. The average back bar had 20 bottles on it 10 years ago. Now it's got maybe 100, maybe it's got 300, maybe it's got 1,000. Those back bars are busy. So the only place you can really make sales today as an entrepreneur are being on menus. Being on menus like the cocktail menu, being on the aperitif menu, being on a gin and tonic menu, monthly specials, or this particularly interesting place called Premium Upsell from House. So these are the places where you make solid sales from accounts. So that's my first point. My second kind of question and point is an area called velocity. So it's a commonly used term in the US market, but less so here in Europe. Most simply put, your velocity is the number of bottles you sell per month divided by the number of accounts that you have. And this gives you your rate of sale, an average rate of sale in a market. It's really useful for finding out how fast or how well you're selling in a city or a neighborhood or a country, and being able to compare and contrast. And it's a really important point. But why is that so important? And what's the more important about that? It's really important to be able to understand what's your actual velocity in different kinds of accounts. How you sell in a cocktail bar on a cocktail menu is going to be very different to how you sell in a restaurant bar on a cocktail menu. So why are all these things so important? Because knowing the intrinsic numbers in your business, how your product sells, means you can write a real sales forecast. So what do you need to know to write a real sales forecast? So first up, as I talked about earlier, is this rate of sale. And rate of sale, for those of you who aren't common with the term, is the number of bottles you sell in one account over the course of a month. And you want to know your rate of sale when you're on a cocktail menu in a cocktail bar, when you're just on the kind of specials menu in a cocktail bar, or when you're in that premium upsell in a cocktail bar. So that's the first set of data you need to go and collect. Next up, you need to know how that rate of sale differs when you're sold in different kinds of accounts. So what does that mean when you're sold in the same account but different accounts? So say you're in one cocktail bar and you're on the menu and you're selling 15 bottles a month. In another cocktail bar, in the same menu, in a cocktail menu, you might only sell 5. And you're trying to get to what is the actually average? What's a realistic number? It's not like your best account ever. It's not your worst account ever. You're trying to get to an average. So finding out your average rate of sale. Then, once you've got these answers to question 1 and 2, you need to try that in different accounts. What is your rate of sale on a cocktail menu in a cocktail bar versus a restaurant versus a neighborhood bar? Getting the same set of data for different kinds of accounts gives you another layer of information about how your business, how your bottle sells. And then last but another really important piece is you need to know how much sales resource you have as a business. Most drinks companies work off the premise that, and there's some other people in here who might have a different opinion, this chap in the front row might, but I would say that one salesperson can probably only manage meaningful relationships with 50 accounts. That's the horsepower of a person in the market. Am I about right? Okay, good. That's good. He's better than me. So if you're working off the premise that you, as a founder, if you're full-time in sales, 50 accounts is all you can do, or if you've got salespeople out there, 50 is what you should be targeting. So those are the 4 sets of data that you need to get together for a sales forecast. Spoiler, this information can be really difficult to get. Some distributors don't want to give you real sales data by account. They might be scared that you might sell directly, or you'll give this information to a rival distributor, or a whole load of different things. But as Spencer will come on and talk about later, if you have a great relationship with your distributor, you might be able to get this data. There are other places, though. You could get it from the bar manager themselves. If they know enough about their bar, they might be able to tell you how your drink is selling, looking at the order sheets. You might be able to get it from a distributor sales team. They might be a little bit more flexible than the distributor themselves. And you might be able to find it from brand ambassadors that are working with your accounts. So get the data, and then the fun begins. So this is where it may get a little complex. First, I'm going to talk to you about this format. So on the left, you've got the types of accounts that you might target. So we've got kind of cocktail bars, restaurants, neighborhood bars. That's what I've given as examples. On the middle column is the options to promote your drink in those different kinds of accounts. So cocktail menu, aperitif menu, premium upsell, those kind of things. And then on the right-hand side is the rate of sale. Now, these rate of sales are taken from a real gin brand sold in Berlin last year. So these are real rate of sale numbers, but your brand will be different. Every brand is slightly different. So you've got your accounts, you've got the one way they're sold, and you've got your rate of sale. Next up, you're going to add the year. Most people will forecast over the course of a year. Some people will forecast over 3, but I think really detailed forecasts like this, 1 year is what you need to start with. So next up, I'm going to say that I'm going to ask my salesperson who's running this business to add 1 cocktail menu listing per month in cocktail bars. That's their target. And if they add 1 cocktail bar per month, you can see the one going all the way up to the top, then every account that they add is going to add 20 bottles to my bottom line. And by the end of the year, I'm going to have sold 1,500 bottles of booze in cocktail bars being on the cocktail menu. But that's only a third of the salesperson's time. So what else are they going to do? Next, I'm going to say, right, in restaurants, I really want to see how this product performs on the aperitif menu. So I'm going to say that it's 14 bottles a month. That's the rate of sale I'm going to hit. And I'm going to add 1 account every month again. That's going to deliver me another 1,000 bottles that year. Very nice, 2,500 bottles of booze sold. Last up, I'm going to say that in neighborhood bars, it's not about the cocktail menu. I'm going to target them going after premium upsell. So it's not house gin, it's the premium upsell. And we add that together, and 1 account every month is what they're adding. So they're going to get, over the course of a year, 36 accounts, adding another 500 bottles. So all in all, 36 bars that you've chosen, 1 salesperson using most of their time, they've still got a bit of capacity, and you've sold 3,000 bottles. So it's relatively straightforward, maybe, but why is all this important? First, understanding how your brand sells in different accounts, it means you understand how your brand sells, and it means you can adjust your strategy, your marketing, your sales, your marketing, and how you control your business to suit how it sells. God, it's hot up here. Second up, it means you can actually target your sales times more effectively. For those of you who have a sales force, you'll know how expensive they are. In the UK or in Europe, you're looking at £60,000 a year between travel, expenses, salaries. In the US, you're looking at $100,000 a year. It's a massive expense in your business. It's taking money from your bottom line all the time. And making sure they're doing exactly what's right for your brand is so important to brand owners. Another piece in here, which I think is perhaps one of the most important, when you're explaining your sales targets to an investor, if he comes to you and says, how are you going to sell 3,000 bottles this year, and you give him this kind of breakdown, that's when they begin to trust you. And building belief, as Andrew mentioned earlier, is absolutely crucial to winning over your investor and making sure they're with you for the long haul. They don't want to say you've just guessed about 3,000 bottles. They want to know exactly how you're going to get 3,000 bottles. And last but by no means least is that you're learning. By writing a sales forecast, you can be more confident that year that you're going to hit a number, but you can also learn from that year, and when you write next year's forecast, you're going to know a hell of a lot more. So as it says on these last 2 points, sales forecasts, they'll never be exact. You might say, if it's not going to be exact, why do I bother? But it's going to teach you so much more about your business, and without it, you're just guessing. Thank you very much. I'd now like to hand you over to my brother from another mother, Spencer Forhart.
I'm also known as the short Dan Gasper. All right, so I'm going to talk to you today about the distributor's perspective. What we see when brands approach us, or when we're out in the market and we're seeing new brands pop up, is the brands focus, as they should, on the liquid, on the packaging, on the story. And that's really important. You have to have a beautiful product, a beautiful package, or you're not going to be successful. But what they don't tend to focus on so much is the actual process of getting it to market in the various markets in this very globalized world. So I'm going to propose to you today that a marriage is a pretty good metaphor for your relationship with your importer and your distributor. Where are we coming from? We distribute across Asia Pacific, 4 offices, a goodly number of countries. We represent 40 brand houses, about 600 different bottlings, every category. But when I look across those products, across that portfolio, and I ask myself which ones are really succeeding, which ones are really swimming downstream, it really comes down to the quality of the relationship so much more often than just the liquid or just the packaging. Of course, liquid and packaging help, but the relationship is the thing that determines the ultimate success in the market. So I've got 6 tips for you to build a strong marriage with your importers and your distributors. The first is that you have to acknowledge the incredible competitive landscape that you guys face. We think that there's about 15,000 independent brands in the market today. I said 15,000. 10 years ago, that number was very small. 5 years from now, it could be 30,000. And so the market that you're going into is really awash in brands. And so you have to stand apart from them, not just with consumers, but with your distributors. In our own experience, we decline dozens of brands for every brand that comes in the portfolio. Not because we're mean guys, but because we want to be able to put our weight behind the brands that we have the best relationships with, the ones that we think are going to succeed. Your task is, in spite of this opposition, these headwinds, you have to be persuasive. You have to really convince us that your brand and your relationship management is going to provide the magic combination that will allow us to succeed. Point 2 is, the distributors are getting choosier and choosier. They're looking for a total package. So you can't rock up, have a cup of coffee, shake hands, and feel like, wow, we really hit it off, it's going to be amazing. You need to come prepared. Have all of your brand collateral done. Have your social media campaign already prepared and ready to go. Have a draft contract, draft terms, what have you. Have an understanding of the local market. Basically, come prepared to go to market instead of assuming that the distributor will do all of that for you. Understand their needs in advance, and that means really understanding their market, really understanding, are they an importer plus distributor model with 2 tiers? Are they an importer direct distributor? Are they a hybrid of both? What is the market? What's the tax basis of the market, et cetera, et cetera. And the last thing is, when you engage, you really want to listen first. Be flexible, be realistic, and be prepared to offer value. You have to remember those 15,000 brands that are out there, that's what they're all looking at. And so you have to stand apart. And what that means is that you really have to listen to what they're saying, drink in their knowledge of the local market, their perspective on your category, et cetera, in order to make a bond. Step 3, get used to rejection. You can't force someone to marry you. Not all of these meetings are going to end in success. In fact, very few of them will. The environment of meeting, or the experience of meeting your importers and distributors in the beginning, is a lot like going on a first date or going on a job interview. So be your very best. They really are assessing you for your potential, not just as a beautiful product, but also as a beautiful partner, an amazing, amazing companion and partner to go through the market with. Don't get emotional when they say no. You have to understand that in our space, it's quite a small world actually. Even though we live in this a world of 195 countries, radical diversity in markets, it's amazing how our paths often cross over and over again in the future. So don't burn bridges. The distributor that says no today may end up being a very, very close partner 2 years from now when your businesses evolve. Step 4, really understand the magnitude of forming a relationship with a distributor or an importer. Like, it's one thing to meet at a trade show, have a cup of coffee, have a cocktail together, even visit the facility together. It's another thing to embark on a relationship that hopefully will last years and bring both of you success. So again, don't go in blind, do your research. Ask yourself, if this distributor, if this importer, is this someone that you can collaborate with? Can you go through hard times together? Can you have difficult conversations? Because that's really what's going to happen. It's not all going to be roses and rainbows. There will be difficult times, and they will come from a variety of directions. And just because you face a few headwinds, you don't want to dissolve your relationship. You need to be able to get through those headwinds. Lastly, acknowledge that the best distributor may not be the best distributor for you. The distributor profile, what they specialize in, what they're really good at, it needs to suit not only your brand, your product, but also your personality, your business style. Some distributors are super corporate, some are super indie. If you're a corporate brand, you're not going to fit really well with an indie distributor. It just doesn't work. Step 5. Before you get married, this is the most difficult conversation you're going to have, and it's going to teach you whether or not there's a fit to be had. Dig into the price build and only move forward in the relationship if you can both imagine the price build working out. When you're doing your price build, you have to understand that all markets are not the same. In US and Australia, Western Europe, off-trade is a big part of your business. You guys will be benchmarking your brands against other brands in the off-trade space. That's how you'll set up your price structure. But in Asia, with a couple of exceptions, there is no off-trade business. It doesn't exist. So the market is benchmarked off of trade pricing. That price build has to be adapted market by market. You can't march from Berlin or London or San Francisco out to the global markets and expect it to work the same in every way. Really dig into the effect of taxes in each market. They are radically different, and they distort your position. They distort your competitive position relative to the other brands. So the brand that you lined up next to from the majors in one market may actually stand above or below you in a different market due to the effect of duty. It plays out in unexpected ways quite dramatically. Lastly, understand that if you're a contract brand owner, meaning if you're paying someone else to distill your liquid, you're going to be at a disadvantage because someone else has margin. That means that there's less margin available for the distributor. You just have to understand that. It's more challenging. Likewise, if you're going into frontier markets, they take more money to build. The distributor's out there building the brand for you and building the market for you, and it costs money to do that. It's not the same as a mature market where you can sort of plug a brand into the system and promote it in conventional ways. So the distributors in those frontier markets are going to want a bigger margin, and they are reasonable in requesting that. Last, point 6, get aligned economically and spiritually before you get married. In other words, set expectations with each other right up front. Dig into pricing, credit, A&P, territory, exclusivity, information rights that Dan was talking about. For the record, with good relationships, we do give the information to the brands, but it comes down to trust. Forecasting, reporting. What are your expectations? What are you asking them to do? Set those expectations up front so you're not surprising each other later. Interestingly, I'm really happy to say we work in one of the, Freudian slip there, we work in one of the most amazing sectors because a handshake still matters in spirits. It's one of the rare places where you can still do deals on handshakes. The lovely gentleman sitting in the second row there, he and I have had handshakes for about 6 years now with really great effect. The fact is it's a small world. you are actually quite unlikely to ever sue each other if things go wrong, because it will go around the community, everyone will learn very quickly, and you will become distrusted. So it pays to get along, and handshakes can work. That said, the more professional you get as a brand, the more professional the distributor, they're going to want it papered. Lastly, and this is the biggest point, as with human relationships, don't sell one set of expectations about who you are and then deliver a different set. Know thyself and tell the truth when you're representing yourself. Don't go in and in sales mode and romance the distributor and then all of a sudden turn up with a completely different set of expectations and working style than what you pitched. The punchline of this is, or the end of this is, when we look through the portfolio, 40 brand houses, 600 bottlings across all the markets, which ones work? The ones that are succeeding, the ones where it's like swimming downstream, are the brand owners that have done these things. They are the brand owners with whom we have great relationships, and that's really the determining factor. So with that, I will hand it off to Mr. Jan-Peter Wulf.
Right size, yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, we just heard it. 15,000 brands. It's incredible. So many brands out there competing, which is also like yeah. Turn over to my thing. Be enthusiastic about what you're doing, but lower your expectations because nobody's waiting for you. Sorry. Nobody's waiting for you. We have saturated markets, so audiences has a low audience attention, obviously, and there's so many exchangeable products. I mean, I guess you've all been around here and you've seen how many gins and Me Too gin products are there. So we're gonna see how many of them are gonna be there in the next year or two. And there's also a long-term trade contracts, either an on and off trade. So consider that when you enter the market, and ask yourself, what is your real USP, your unique selling proposition? Do you actually have one? Don't rely on your blind spot. Of course, you are 100% convinced that you have the greatest products, and your friends will also say that, and your family, and maybe the people giving the first investment to you, maybe like the inner circle. But don't rely on that. Ask people and friends from friends, and even strangers, what they think about the product, if they even understand that. Because most of the products are gonna be alone out there. So it has to be understandable. So shelf space is rare in bars and also in a trade in supermarkets. So can you really replace something? Is this something because you're competing with somebody else? Yeah. Can you replace another product or can't you? Can you even kill a category? This is, for me as a journalist, this is the most interesting thing to see products which are, well, yeah, hybrids of categories, such as these two I'm showing you here. The one is Birds. It's not a gin, it's a post-gin, as a colleague once wrote, which I really like. It's made out of grapes, Riesling grapes, and then it's distilled and infused with botanicals. So it's a gin, but on the other side, it's not a gin. It's something unique. And on the left side, you see Brox, which is not a beverage, but it's a bouillon. It's not a bouillon, it's a bone brox. It's bone broth made out of bones from animals. So it's very unique, actually, and it's very successful in the German market. And I would say that you have made it when China's copying you. So this is a Chinese lookalike, which I found on the internet just like a few weeks ago. This is the original one, you see it, and well, yeah, you can see for yourself. So this is obviously a copy. Since your product is alone out there in the supermarket or in the bar, don't rely on the staff to explain to people what your product is all about. The only thing which can really explain what your product is all about is your packaging. So your packaging is your ad pillar. I like Oatly a lot because it made a dull milk carton into an ad pillar which explains everything about the product, which is cool, which is not self-aggrandizing. They have nice content, they have nice text, and still people can understand what it's all about. So think about the way Oatly does it. And yeah, consider also the long-range effect. When you think of a bar, your product might be at least 3 or 4, sometimes even 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 meters away from the consumer, so from the guest in the bar. So it has to be visible in a way. When it comes to communication, you can either have a lot of money And if you have a lot of money, it's easy for you, but I guess most of the beverage startups don't have a lot of money to invest into marketing, so you have to invest a little bit more time. And it means that you have to communicate professionally from the very, very beginning, invest your time in producing great content, which includes website content, brochure content, press and online text. Also for online shops, you have to provide the content for online shops and give it to the online shops, because otherwise they will write the text themselves and it's always going to be a bad text or worse than yours is. So this is very important that you create great content from the very beginning, professional one, which includes also images, of course, and if you have videos, for me as a journalist, it's always good to have video content for like a perfect serve, for example, or something which is about the product, which I can also use in online media. Well, social media, I could speak about social media for hours, of course, but I don't have the time, so just this one brief point. Social media is compulsory, you have to do it, and it costs also money. You have to have a little budget which you can invest into social media, because if you want to reach an audience on Facebook, it doesn't come for free anymore. Sorry. And the same holds good for Instagram. You have to have a budget, and maybe somebody even you have to hire maybe somebody who helps you with it if you're not 100% familiar with it. So it's yeah, expensive these days. And search engine optimization is very, very important. So take this also very seriously, and maybe hire somebody or get help from somebody who can help you with SEO content from the very beginning. When it comes to communicating with media or influencers, yeah, I like this example a lot. This is actually just a bicycle trip you've seen. This is Greg Koch from Stone Brewing. He was doing a bicycle trip when the brewery wasn't yet opened with a colleague of mine. So they were both going by bicycle to the place where the brewery was about to open. And well, they took a day off, and the result of that was just a great day and a great story. I really like to read this story. And there was somebody, a CEO of a company, who took the time to spend time with a journalist or a blogger to create a unique story. So this is something you should really consider if you don't have a lot of marketing budget to spend. Invest time with the people who are doing the media, and try to find stories both sides benefit from. That's actually my guess, my recommendation. And also create real experiences. On the left side you see where the Spreewood distillers actually accommodate trade people or bartenders. They don't use a fancy hotel, they use a barrel. So if you want to stay at the Spreewood distillery, you're going to spend the night in a barrel. This is something very unique and something you will never forget, I guess. And it's, well, why not? Why not just do something differently? On the right side you see, this was actually just a couple of weeks ago, a tasting for me and friends of mine. Most of them are not in the spirits world whatsoever. So that was actually the first beverage tasting they ever did, or whiskey tasting, and they totally loved it. So really think about what can you do for end consumers, which is different from what other brands do. Maybe you can do a pop-up, you can do pairing dinners, or speed tastings, or you have a stand at a street food festival. And if BCB is too expensive for you as a stand, then well, there's lots of independent spirits festivals out there. So also consider that too. And don't forget the second row. Everybody's looking for the top 50 bars in the world, or in the country, or in the city. There's a huge amount of outlets which you can approach, and which are not being approached by all the brands. So maybe ask them if they're interested in cooperating with you. And this is also something which you can do within your local market very well if you know it. Yeah, don't forget the second row, because they might be more grateful, and you could establish long-term relationships without spending a lot of money, actually. So genuine experience must not cost a fortune. You really have to just be a little bit more creative. And that's actually my wrap-up. Be different, show and explain it, communicate personally and individually, and create unique experiences. And good luck. Thanks.